Welcome to Flash Fantasy. Today, we're here to break down the NFC East and help you win your league in a flash. We're going to get started with the Washington Redskins. As many like to look at them, there's barely anybody you want to take from their team. So this should be rather quick of a breakdown. They suck. No, I'm just kidding. They do. We'll start with the quarterback like usual with Duane Haskins. There's been some videos of him throwing the ball, getting in shape, working out in this offseason. So at least someone took coronavirus seriously. But Duane Haskins, here's a bold take for you, Norris. Maybe you could correct me. But I think Duane Haskins can be the comeback player of the year in a fantasy perspective. I think, bold prediction, Duane Haskins hits the top 10.
Yeah, I think that's too bold, and I think that's not as realistic. Going off of last year, I just don't think that he. I don't think that he, as a player, even on a fantasy level, is going to be able to put up top 10 numbers with the players around him. And of course, we're going to obviously break down this team. And as we further go on into this video, you're going to see that there are, now this is us speaking now, unless they make some moves, within the next couple of months to get somebody in position to help him out, I don't see him having top 10 quarterback fantasy numbers with just Terry McLaurin or Thaddeus Moss as the only two guys that he's throwing to outside of the running backs. So I think that's a little too bold.
Well, here's why, right? I think he's a dual threat, which we love to see. He's a cheat code when it comes to quarterback. He had 20 rushing attempts last year for 101 yards. That's 5 yards per carry, which is good. The downside is he played 9 games, and he only had 7 touchdowns in those 9 games and 7 interceptions.
Mm-hmm.
So not the most accurate, but I don't know. It's something in my gut. So maybe take me up on it, guys. I don't think he's worth drafting. I think maybe you wait until see what he has the first week and pick him up off the waivers if he does well. But he's not a quarterback that you're going to throw in there and use on your fantasy team whatsoever. Just like Norris said, his stats speak volumes for his inconsistency and his non-dependency as a quarterback. So even though it's a small capture of his stats, maybe he could do more with 16 games. Maybe he could do worse, but we'll definitely see this year. I think he's probably the best option right now for the starting job. I would rather have Duane Haskins than Kyle Allen, which we know is on the Redskins. But
right.
Yeah.
I even that in itself, I can't say that with confidence. But the only thing that gives, I guess, that allows me to say that yes, Duane Haskins Jr. should be the starter and have that spot, only because last year, like you said, he didn't play a full season, and also that was his rookie year. So I'm a big advocate for rookies when they are in a position to start and to be the guy especially since they drafted him. I think that he definitely should have the starting role over Allen, but I don't know if I could say with 100% confidence that he's going to be the better option. But he was a rookie last year, and we're going to be able to see him, if he stays healthy and whatnot, to develop into a 16, 17 game starting quarterback.
We'll definitely find out. But yeah, that's pretty much all we have for Duane Haskins right now. Definitely just somebody I personally would keep an eye on. Maybe he does something.
Yeah, and I mean, they have Ron Rivera out there now. So we obviously see what Ron Rivera has done with the quarterbacks he has had. Not to say that he's going to revolutionize Duane Haskins, but he's definitely a noteworthy name to put as an asterisk next to Duane Haskins if you plan on drafting him or having him on your roster.
Yeah, that's a good take. So let's move on to the the plethora of running backs
Wow.
in the Washington Redskins, just to list all of them. Darius Geis, Adrian Peterson, Antonio Gibson, Bryce Love, J.D. McKessick, Peyton Barber, and Josh Ferguson. That's insane. And you know what's crazy? None of them will do anything for you in your fantasy year. Like, none of them. None of them.
Yeah. I mean,
None of them. At
zero.
most, one of them may fill your flex spot one week and give you 10 points. At most. Maybe that's bold, but I'd rather put no trust in the Washington Redskins running backs than any trust at all.
Okay, so last year you had I guess, interesting phase or moment of believing in Darius Geis.
I did.
What has changed now?
So last year, I thought Darius Geis could do something with this O-line, and then they traded away their best piece on their O-line, and they didn't draft an offensive lineman. They didn't draft any skilled receivers to relieve any pressure off of the running backs, and they aren't going to be up in many games because they didn't. Besides Chase Young is a beast. Besides that, their defense is the same. So maybe they get more sacks, but I don't see them being a defensive player and dominating any games to be ahead to use the running backs like that. I can't see that happening anytime soon. So the running back opportunity, I mean, we can look at Darius Geis, Adrian Peterson, whoever played that week, because that's another thing. It's a rotating door, at least last year, in the Redskins backfield of who gets the ball when. But like you said, Ron Rivera is there now, and we could definitely see something from that. Adrian Peterson had 211 attempts for 898 yards. At some point, Adrian Peterson is going to get tackled so hard he turns into dust on the field. That's the way he has it written out in his will, I believe. Darius Geis, he finished 69th in PPR league because he only had 42 rushing attempts for 245 yards. He only played 5 games, and that's another thing. Darius Geis, coming out of college, I had a lot of faith in Darius Geis being in this backfield, having an opportunity, and then he got hurt, and we haven't seen him really play a full game since. And with that many snaps, I did have value in his potential, but I don't see how they're going to use the running backs and which running back they're going to lean on. So this year, I wouldn't draft any of the running backs simply because it's better to say, all right, let's say Darius Geis takes off week 1, right? Maybe he puts up 30 points out of nowhere. They start taking off. The worst case scenario, right? That you didn't draft Darius Geis, but instead you got another starting running back. I'd rather have any other starting running back than Darius Geis. Any other.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, yeah, I agree. I'm definitely not one to advocate for Washington Redskins running backs. If you are the type of person that gets caught up in I guess names, sure, go after Adrian Peterson or even take a high risk on Antonio Gibson that they drafted. I don't know, but there's not much that I can say to advocate for them. But you mentioned their defense, and just to give a little bit of credit to the Washington Redskins, they used their last 3 picks to draft a linebacker, a safety, and a defensive end. So, you know, of course, I'm not going to say, oh, yeah, these guys are going to be starting. But there is a need, and they're aware of it. And so, I mean, they drafted some offensive linemen and whatnot. But, yeah, I mean, we'll see what they do. But honestly, they finished 4th in the division. They'll probably be there again because Dallas is not looking like they're going to slow down. Philadelphia is not looking like they're going to slow down. And the verdict is still out on the Giants. So we'll see what happens.
Definitely still out on the Giants, and we'll be getting to them soon enough. So let's talk about the only player I would even touch with a 10-foot pole. I would even touch him with a 5-foot pole. at wide receiver. He showed position. He showed his skill last year in the position. That was his rookie year too. So as a rookie, you don't expect a lot of wide receivers to take that jump and do what he did, or even close to what he did. But he showed himself as the number one available option in the offense. And he only played 14 games. He finished 29th in PPR leagues. He had 93 targets and 58 receptions, which isn't actually too good, but it's not horrible. He had 19 yards and 7 touchdowns. That's the thing that you love to see. 7 touchdowns as a wide receiver. He's probably going to go just because. Um, so yeah, I think overall, like, Terry McLaurin is an asset worth drafting. If you check out our wide receiver podcast or our buy or deny wide receiver video on YouTube, we talk a little bit more. But with his current ADP, now granted ADP is up to change depending on how close we get to the league, more news, so on and so forth. But he's a steal. He's going about 4th, 5th round, and you could pick him up, and he could plug into your wide receiver 2, or maybe as that 3rd wide receiver with so many more options that you can grab. So definitely I'm probably taking Terry McLaurin in, I'd say 60% of my drafts.
Okay. Yeah, and to continue on that track of kind of saying that Terry McLaurin is a good green light type of player. Ron Rivera praised him very highly. He said that he is Washington Redskins DJ Moore. So if you look at what Terry McLaurin did last year, like you said, he had over 900 yards with 7 touchdowns out of the 58 receptions. I think that is encouraging. And I think that with him, he's coming out of Ohio State, so he, even from college, he knew coming in, he had a professional mindset on how to run routes, how to get open and whatnot. The guy is 6 feet tall, but when you watch him play, he just seems a little bit bigger, a little bit quicker than his numbers has shown. So with him finishing, 29th in wide receiver fantasy points, that is a number where it's like you take it with a grain of salt, because wide receivers are deep, and a guy like Terry McLaurin, like you said, he could be your wide receiver 2. Definitely a flex spot, definitely at minimum, if you are a tough critic. So at minimum, he can be your flex guy, and I would say, and even debate for him, that he would be very successful in that area. Again, 7 touchdowns. I think that's just something where, with him being the number 1 guy, you have a coach that is just praising you with these, comparisons, and you have Duane Haskins, who is throwing you the ball, who he's very familiar with. And I don't know, maybe this is a reach, but you have another Ohio State player coming in Chase Young. So it's just some more, I guess, fuel of like, this is a brotherhood and we're going to win, more than 3 games this year.
Right. The Washington Buckeyes, guys. The Washington
exactly.
Buckeyes.
It's slowly turning into that.
Right.
So yeah, that's I think that's my take on Terry McLaurin. Again, guys, don't be too hesitant on him. I think that he is a solid pick especially for his ADP.
Definitely a solid pick for his ADP. I love the comparison by Ron Rivera. It's funny. DJ Moore is a guy that, like, he needs a comparison. like DJ Moore isn't that Steve Smith or Larry Fitzgerald where you can compare guys to and you could see that value. DJ Moore is in the league, and it's funny that Terry McLaurin was compared to DJ Moore, to me at least. So I definitely see some growth this year with Ron Rivera there, like you said. Let's talk about some of their other key players, whoever they may be. Like I said, the Redskins are sadly, because you hate to see like a team that doesn't produce very well, but yeah, they're a fantasy wasteland, guys. They're besides Terry McLaurin, hopefully Duane Haskins. Like I'm saying, I just got a feeling, guys. Trust my judgment, I guess. But Duane Haskins could crack the top 10 this year. But besides those guys, there's nobody I'm really willing to go out for. They have Thaddeus Moss, son of Randy Moss. So, I mean, he could come in, but he's a tight end, a rookie tight end at that. So I don't see him coming in, blowing up the league right away. You got Jeremy Sprinkle. You don't want to sprinkle him on your fantasy team. There's other tight ends. And that's pretty much all there is. There's Kelvin Harmon at wide receiver. He did pretty well last year. Steve Sims Jr. Is out there as well. So, I mean, there's really not skill positions out there. Now, for those who love hearing those rumors, I have heard a rumor about Antonio Brown going to the Redskins. But I doubt it. Until I see anything leading to that, I doubt that will happen, but just a rumor I've heard.
Yeah. And, since we're talking about the Washington Redskins, and I'll only keep this brief, and I'm only mentioning their defense because there isn't much to look at on offense. Right. But, one encouraging player that they have is like a guy like Jonathan Allen, who had 6 sacks last year. They have, some pieces on defense. When you look at it, it's like, okay, like I'm kind of, as a fan of, like, if I were a fan of Washington Redskins, I'd be like, okay, that this is intriguing at the least. Kendall Fuller at cornerback. Thomas Davis Sr. is out there still. Again,
he just got signed there.
Right. Oh, yeah. So he's out there. But just having the names of, like, okay, Ryan Kerrigan. And when I was like, okay, these are some pieces where it raises my eyebrows. But when you open your eyes and look at the numbers, it's not something where you're like, oh, yeah, we're going to win the division. That's just unrealistic. But, again, I only mentioned the defense because there's not too much to go off to encourage you with from the offensive perspective.
Right. And just because a team is a losing team, it doesn't mean they're bad fantasy-wise. Look at the Bengals. They produced Green, John Ross last year. Tyler Boyd did great. These are guys that you could put on your fantasy team and have produce. So just because their record is horrible, which anywhere above 500%. So, yeah, I doubt. I see it. I think that's about it that we have for our Redskins breakdown.
Right.
Yeah.